Vyrgilla is one of the best decks coming up, and unfortunately it got delayed in English, but that's okay because we get Festival Collection this month. I think it's actually coming in next week, so let's talk about it. This deck is pretty much one of the best decks in the JP format as well. And before we get into the deck, I just want to give a big shout out to Bear and his Hong Kong team. There's a lot of players over there who essentially crafted this deck and the deck list I'm about to showcase. And I've been playing around with this deck. I think it is very, very stable, but there's a little bit of intricacies with this deck that I may or may not like. But nonetheless, I think it is one of the best decks in the format coming up. So English will not get the new start deck until September, but that doesn't really stop this deck from, I guess, being played as of July. So let's go through the deck. Nothing too crazy about the deck build itself. There's a few different things that I know that other lists run that this deck particularly doesn't run. But we'll talk about that in a sec. So starting with the starting Vanguard, we play Vyrgilla. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what starter you use. Vyrgilla's, easily accessible for anyone who picks up the first start deck that came out in English, and then obviously it came out in the newer start deck as well. The grade 1, all you need to know is that when you ride into grade 2, you can Soul Blast 1 instead of discarding a card, which essentially saves a card in your hand, which rides up to this grade 2. And with the new start deck, it actually makes the Vanguard skill here really good because the little cloud boy that pairs with Azor is able to be called out from the drop zone, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But essentially, if you have 4 or more rear guards, you can reveal a Vyrgilla in your ride deck, and then this gains a crit. And then when a Vyrgilla rides over this unit, you can top 7 for a grade 2 and then add it to hand. Sorry, if a grade 3 rides over, top 7, grade 2, and add it to your hand. If it's a Vyrgilla, then you search your deck instead. So it's pretty good. I think the ride line stabilizes itself and essentially gets you what you need, right? So Vyrgilla grade 3. So the first effect, act once per turn. On the Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it, and then choose one of your grade 2s in your drop zone and call it out to rear guard. Really important that it is the grade 2 that gets called because it manipulates the way that you ditch for ride line. The second effect, when this unit attacks, can loss 1, choose one of your grade 2 rear guards and stand it. This effect, I guess, only matters if you go first, but depending on some decks, you actually want to stay down. Then you get the full ability of the new form, which is Rewrite Form Alfite. So this card has a lot of text, but essentially it allows you to write it from hand by binding a Vyrgilla Vanguard, and it gets 2 abilities. So the first ability is you search your deck or drop for a grade 2 and you call it. And secondly, on top of that, you also find an ultimate skill and add it to your hand from drop or deck. So the ultimate skill is essentially one of your 2 orders, and the orders either give power to the Vanguard and then call, or give power to rearguard, and when that rearguard restands against crit. But we'll talk about that once we get there. So we play 4 of the new Alfite form. The card is pretty nuts, and I didn't even cover the second effect. So the second effect is it gains an ability where when it attacks, you can counter loss 1, stand your front row rear guards, and then this unit gains +1 drive, and then your front row gains +5k for each copy of Alfite in Soul. So the more times you ride into it, the more power scaling it gets, and it caps at +15k because you can only ever have 3 copies max of this card in Soul, given that the last copy is on your Vanguard. So Alfite, really, really strong. I think the way that they've, I guess, developed this deck is really cool. It makes the deck a very going second deck, but we'll touch on that later in this video. So we play 3 Persona rides, obviously. Some decks run 2 to open up, I guess, space for other cards in the deck, which is okay. You can drop this down to 2 and then get something else, which is probably better. And then we play 2 of this Galaxian. I don't actually remember the name, but I just know it's Fanfare. So essentially when it's placed in rearguard, you can stop loss 1, you choose an Ezawar, and it gains plus 5k. If your opponent's grade 3 or greater, the 5k becomes 10k instead, and it gives it to Ezawar and this unit. So this is essentially just straight up a 23k attacker, really strong. And then front of rearguard circle at the end of turn, if you have a Vyrgilla Vanguard, you can put this into Soul, draw 1, countercharge 1. Really, really good. I think this deck struggles a little bit with the Counterblast because you're using Counterblast for the restand on the Alfite, you're using Counterblast for the little Cloud Boy to get it out from the drop zone, you use Counterblast for the Drag Ritter to find your grade 3s, so any form of countercharge is really good, right? Next, we played 3 variance raids. So some decks don't run this, and I feel that this deck, running this is really good because it allows for 1 intercept for an insane guard value. Ezawar itself is already 15k shield, and the fact that you get plus 5k, plus 5 shield, and it cannot be targeted by effects or cannot be affected by card effects is pretty nuts. So from the drop zone act, you can bind it if you have a grade 3 or greater Vyrgilla Vanguard. Bind this card, choose a rearguard with Ezawar, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, cannot be affected by your opponent's card effects, and it gains plus 5k, plus 5k power, plus 5k shield. So essentially it turns Ezawar into a 20k shield, more stacks becomes, bigger. So it essentially can technically go up to what, plus 15, 30k shield intercept, which is pretty wild. The second effect, continuous Guardian Circle. If you have a Vyrgilla Vanguard, this unit gains plus 5k shield. So just straight up 10k shield, really good. Then we play the Ace unit. And the Ace unit in this deck is very versatile because it's a grade 2 and it's searchable. So Ace unit, so you get to do the unique skill. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard, it gains plus 5k, energy plus 3, draw 1, and then choose one of your opponent's circles and essentially put the unit on the circle into the drop zone by nullifying all effects of that unit on the circle. Really good as a spot retire for anything that has like resist or cannot be affected, because it nullifies the effect first and it puts it into the drop zone. Secondly, when this unit attacks, if you have a, I think it's like, if you have a grade 3, gain plus 5, and then if something got retired, it gains another plus 5. So it's just straight up a 20k attacker, really strong. The good thing about this card in this particular deck is that it's a grade 2, so it can be tutored by your Vyrgilla grade 2 ride line. You can search it off like from the bin using Vyrgilla's skill. So it has multiple applications. The fact that it's a grade 2, which is very good for this deck. Ezawar, just straight up a 15k body, 15k shield, but you can only play it if you have a Vyrgilla Vanguard, essentially. We play 1 Fall Art, and the reason why we play 1 Fall Art is that essentially your energy will always be 6 or 9, depending if you go first or second, right? You're always going to use EB3 for the Vyrgilla, so meaning that the extra 3 energy is either used for like your Ace unit or Fall Art, right? Sometimes, let's just say, your Ace unit gets hit into the damage zone, then at least you have 2 copies of a card to be able to utilize the excess energy. If you go second, then, Fall Art is the 1 card that will use your energy, and then the Ace unit will also use the other 3 energy, making full use of the 9 energy that you get. Sometimes if you Persona Ride, you can just call a grade 1 from the bin, so you can call the Drag Ritter, which makes it a 13k attacker, which is pretty good. Or if you have, this, you can, I guess, call the Cloud Boy. But yeah, it's the application of the second skill is dependent on what you want on your board. Then we played the Drag Ritter Nillium, I think. But essentially, on place rearguard, counterblast 1, top 7 for a grade 3. Add it to your hand. If you did not get a card, you can countercharge 1. Essentially, a free search for a grade 3. Really good for your Elf Knight because you need it. Or if you're preparing for the next turn, grabbing a Vyrgilla for Persona Ride is good too. The second skill, continuous rearguard. If your opponent's rearguard was bound or retired this turn, it gains plus 5. Their 10k booster behind the Vanguard is formidable. So you're attacking essentially for what, 26, 36 on Persona Ride, and then let's just say you have one Alfite in Soul, it's like 41 middle, right? Your ultimate skills obviously give more applications or more power for your center column if you use the Stardust Blade. But we'll talk about that in a sec. So we played this Cloud Boy, or actually it's a Fire Boy. It's not a Cloud Boy, it's a Fire Boy. But essentially, auto from Drop Zone. When an Urzawa is played on rearguard, you can Camelus 1 and then call this out in the same column as Urzawa. But if Urzawa was called by an effect, your Vanguard's ability, you can free call this, which is really strong because you essentially create a column for free. Secondly, auto back row rearguard circle. If your Urzawa restands, if the Urzawa in this same column restands, then stand this as well. So you're essentially attacking Urzawa and the Fireboy first, and then when your Alfite restands it, then the Cloudboy restands along with the Urzawa. We played this Dragon, and this is actually probably one of the cuttable cards. Essentially, you discard it, and you put back 2 of your right deck, and then you search the top 7 for a grade 3, and then you add it to hand. And if you didn't get anything, then you return the dragon back to hand. It's good to be able to get Alfite, so you have multiple ways. So obviously the primary way is the Drag Ritter, but being able to have access to another card that recurs itself. So essentially you get double searches if you don't find it on the first go. With this Summit Flare Dragon, I think, is really good. And then the second skill, if it's placed on Guardian Circle, if your opponent has a grade 4 something, it gains shield. But to be honest, the primary application of this card is essentially to find the grade 3. But the second skill, you just get like a bunch of shield, which is, always welcome, right? We played 3 PGs, 1 Elementaria. If you find that, there's not a lot of guard restrict decks, but I think when you get to set 9, Heartlaroo has guard restrict. So I think, Elementaria is good to bypass the bear. So 3 and 1 is fine. Trigger lineups, Drag Vader is the best OT in the game. And then along with 8 crit, 3 effect fronts. This deck actually generates a lot of advantage just by free calling your whole board. And then 4 heals, you can swap it for restand heals if the meta becomes heavily restand, which it will in set 9. Then let's talk about the 2 ultimate skills. So the first one, we only play 1 copy of each because we are able to tutor them off the ride line as well as Alfite. So Camelus 1, play this, essentially top 5 call 1, and if any of your if any of your rear guards get removed or retired by your opponent's card ability during your turn, then you can search your deck for a normal unit, call it. But it's more so the second effect. Your Vanguard gains plus 3k for each normal unit on rearguard and in drop zone. So your center column becomes extremely big. This card is really good because it replaces itself, puts it into the drop zone, and then Alfite will search it back the next turn. This one, so something cross, Blazing Star Cross or something. But essentially when you play it, you have to have a Vyrgilla Vanguard, so +1. Choose one of your Urzawas, gains +10. And then if your opponent is grade 3, if your opponent's grade 3, it gets a rearguard ability. If you Persona Road this turn, or if your opponent has 3 or more bound units, then when the unit restands, so as well, when it restands, it gains a +1 crit. So it's okay. This card is good when you are trying to push in the mid game. So once you get to like turn 4, get to the mid game. So yeah, it's a pretty good order. Sometimes if like you're starving on Counterblast, you just use this one because it's like Soul Blast 1. You want to Soul Blast your normal units so that, as the game progresses, then your Stardust Blade becomes really strong. The Regalis piece that we run is Twin Cast. This deck just needs as much defense as it can possibly get because its offense is scalable towards the mid to late game. So Twin Cast, 10k shield as a blitz order, and then you can remove it, and it essentially gives 5k for each grade of your Vanguard, which is plus 15 once you get to grade 3. In the JP format, you play 1 defending roll because defending roll is restricted to 1, and yeah, it's just really good because what you can do is like you can intercept an Urzawa and then you defending roll the Urzawa, and then the Urzawa goes back into hand, which essentially serves as a 15k. But the main application would be, you know, you use your front, you use defending roll, it's a 30k shield, and then you bounce the front back to hand, and yeah, it's just really good. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. So the few things that I don't like about this deck is that you kind of have to hard draw into a lot of stuff. So there's no like, you know, there's no raw draw, so to say. So like if you talk about like Heart Luru, you have your Dragon, which draws, and I guess you have triple drive. I guess this deck does have triple drive. But being able to hard draw into stuff because it runs Tizcar as well, Filias as well. So Heart Luru has a lot more raw draw power, whereas this deck, you kind of have to rely on your Vanguard checks to get your PGs. But otherwise, like sometimes your hand is pretty clogged grade 3s. Maybe just look out for that. And then during your ride progression, so from 0 to 3, if you find the Fireboy, just ditch it because you're always going to get it back later on anyways. Because essentially placing an Urzawa becomes a Sword Me. So those boomers out there who know what Sword Me is, essentially it's a Canvas 1 quarter booster for Royal Paladin. So Urzawa essentially does that, but just from the drop zone instead. The Alfite finds a Galaxian, which means that it can tutor for your Fireboy, your Fanfare, or Urzawa. From deck or drop. So the deck compression with this deck is really strong because you're mulling out one of your ultimate skills, and then you're mulling out one of your Galaxians from deck, and then essentially the Canvas 1 that you use to restand the rear guards essentially refund itself because you're calling the Fanfare in the mid game. So in the late game, you obviously want to, you know, push for damage. So calling the Galaxian is actually pretty good because you Soul Loss 1, you essentially give plus 10 to each of your rear guards, and then restanding it makes it really strong as well. But yeah, that is pretty much the Vyrgilla deck. Again, a big shout out to Bear. Thank you very much for sharing this list, and this list did come first at the Chiho Cup in Sapporo. So I think Bear's friend ended up playing Bear's deck or Bear's list and did well with it. So this deck definitely, you know, works. And yeah, it's probably going to translate well into English. Actually, one more thing. So because we get the start deck in September, how would you play this if you did not have the start deck and it comes to next week and you really want to play Vyrgilla and you've got your 4 Elf Knights? So this Fireboy comes in the start deck, so you just swap it for the older Cloud Boy. But essentially it just restands itself. It's also a Galaxian. That's like I guess the bare bones you can kind of swap it with. Obviously it doesn't generate a board. So, you know, you call it out and it just kind of doesn't recur itself. So your ride deck progression might be slightly different, but like, to be honest, that's the least of your problems. The fact that it can restand when Urzawa restands, that's the most important bit. And then obviously you don't have this ultimate skill, you just add 1 Stardust Blade and call it a day. So yeah, pretty much everything is available in English other than the Fireboy and the ultimate skill. Just swap the ultimate skill for 1 more Stardust Blade, and then the Fireboy for the old Cloud Boy, whatever his name is. I keep calling Cloud Boy and Fireboy and I have no idea what the name is. Anyways, that is pretty much it. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of Vyrgilla. Have you guys been playing it? And it's seen a lot of success in Japan, so hopefully we get to see that success in English as well. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.